Hello. Our next session is a conversation with the wonderful Lisa Lawrence, recorded from her home in New Jersey in the USA. Lisa is a PR and branding consultant who specializes in the fashion industry. She worked in luxury fashion for more than 27 years and oversaw public relations for Jean-Paul Gaultier in North America for 23 of those years. Her team was largely responsible for Gaultier's imaging through brand identity, advertising campaigns, collaborations, and celebrity dressing. She's worked with Beyonce, with Lady Gaga, Rihanna, Jay-Z, Oprah, the list goes on and on. And so after Jean-Paul Gaultier closed his ready-to-wear business in 2013, Lisa decided it was time to go on a different journey. So she opened her own consultancy and now works with smaller fashion brands, helping them to understand their customer, what it is they want to achieve, and to lift their sales and their brand identity. In this conversation, Lisa and I talk about what it means to build a business that your customers really believe in. It's a pleasure to welcome Lisa Lawrence. So hello, Lisa. Fantastic to have you on the summit. Very warm welcome to you. It looks like actually the weather is gorgeous over there in New Jersey at the minute. Much less so here, I have to say.
I'm sorry. We are having quite a beautiful stretch of weather. It's that one of those silver linings to this pandemic that we get good weather. So we're like, okay, something to look forward to.
Yeah, indeed. We've had our share, in fairness. It's been lovely few weeks, but recently it's taken a bit of a nosedive. So at the minute it's rather grey and drizzly outside, which is not much fun.
That's just a reminder of still what's going on.
Indeed, yes. So anyway, as I say, great to have you here. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Having me.
I think what's really interesting about what you're going to be talking about is the fact that obviously these are strange times. And whilst this summit isn't particularly about the situation we find ourselves in now with the COVID and the pandemic and all of that, obviously there are lessons that can be learned. And this is really about, okay, so what can we take from experiences other people have had and shape businesses and move forward in a really positive way that allows us to build something substantial and meaningful and sustainable for the future. And the idea that we've been talking about is around how one creates a business and a brand that people really care about. That has a genuine sense of authenticity. And I know you have some really interesting things to say about that. So maybe we can just kind of start there. What to you, let's take the word authenticity. It's a word that's used a lot, and not necessarily in a useful way very often. What does that idea mean to you from as someone who's in the PR world and in the fashion world in particular? What does that mean for you, for a business and a brand?
Well, I think now the word authenticity, and it is overused, but it is a word that has a lot of relevance to what's going on. I think we have to look at the model of companies and what's happening in these companies. So you have to reassess everything that's happened to you. So first thing is to look at the foundation of the company. Are you overstaffed? Are you over executive? Are you over at the top of consumption with your employees that there's a lot of extras that maybe you could pull it in a bit? So maybe you can pull back and look at the foundation of who's working for you, what are they doing, and what are they lending to the company. The authenticity part is that right now your product needs to stand for something. What makes your product better than someone else's? And you have to reconfigure your whole idea of how you want to express this. Like I think a product that you have has to have some real value, because fashion is not a very important subject right now to people. It's actually not, it shouldn't be important. We have other matters and other concerns in life, but yet fashion is in a huge business. It's an enormous business, and we will come back to it, but we can still do it while we're in this. So having authenticity is, what does your product mean to you? What does your product mean to your audience? Know your audience. A lot of people put out product and we have like layers of black dresses and all of these things that you can find them everywhere. Well, maybe it's time to bring it down a bit. Maybe the excess is too much, and hone in on what is this product that you want to convey to your customers. Now, if it's clothing, what about your clothing? What's your philosophies behind your brands? What's your social stance on issues? We're in a very tricky time. We've got all this that's going on with the global pandemic, but we also have this protest and this injustice that's really a very strong subject matter. So you have to think about where do you and who do you want to sell to. So I think starting with the foundation of who your employees, who your executives, who's conveying this message is very, very real, and time to reassess. You know, people are going to have layoffs, but then what does that mean? Do the people that stay just take on extra work that they're not able to do? I think I had given you an example one time, Phil, about this company Gravity, where the CEO had assessed his company. He was making millions and millions of dollars, and his employees were not making millions and millions of dollars. They were working one job, two jobs just to sustain. And he looked at the bottom line of the company and said, I want to change this. So he and every employee that he had took the same salary. And what that did is not only did it, change the course of his life because he had to change and sell things, but it changed his employees' lives. And these people worked harder. They worked harder because they felt appreciated. They were making money that would help them to just have one job so they'd have quality time with their family. And I think that is what is missing in the whole core of company values right now, is there's no quality time. It's work, work, work. You have your phone, you have your computer, you are available 24/7. And so we need to build where there's an appreciation of hard work, tenacity, perseverance, but that you have value to your time. You can spend time with your family. You can do things and you don't have to feel tethered to work. So where you start at the foundation of that, and then that layers into the authenticity of the product is, what's your product? Why do I want your product? You have to rethink how you're selling your product. So I'm a big proponent of brick and mortars. I think brick and mortar stores are where it's at. I think the overlayering of large department stores, and many of them, I don't want to put any of them down because everybody needs their job and I don't want anything to close, but we have to rethink how you're selling it. And the way that they're selling it, it's just everyone else's way. Social media, advertisement, so-called influencers, real influencers. So you have to have authenticity to how you're going to convey this brand to the general public. And make mistakes. Like, I think it's very humbling when people try things, but they're not sort of the word bougie about it, and they make a mistake on things and they don't quite get it right. But it's like them trying to say, well, help us have customer conversations. There used to be a time when a product was being launched, you would do focus groups and you'd have people come in and talk to you and you'd get all kinds of perspectives. Bringing it back to that conversation, communication with the public, having the public convey to you. That's why when you buy something online and you read reviews, that makes you feel more engaged with the product because somebody's telling you about it. So I think that's a very important aspect. I think brick and mortars are the reason that businesses can do really well is because you really hone in and you pull it in. You concentrate on creativity. You have the product is stellar. The product has to be stellar. You have this engagement in a different way because you're there and you're with your customers, you're with the product, you're with your teams of people, but you don't need these extra heavy layers of people that, a lot of people aren't doing anything per se. It's just they're collecting these wonderful salaries. And what's happening? Your social media platforms, look at what's happened to Starbucks. They're no longer, advertising and Coca-Cola on social media platforms because they were just doing that to keep the name out there. But what's the brand identity? Like, what is the product that I'm relating to? If I see it on every social media platform and every text message or every Facebook thing, do I really think about, let me have a Coke? No, you want to have some relevance to where this matters. And we all know our computers and our phones are listening to us. My husband has a wonderful example. One day he was discussing garage doors with his friend and he gets to work and the next thing he's got garage doors all over his phone. It's like, so we have to go back a little bit on that. They're saying selling is less important. And I'm like, selling is really important, but it's how you sell it. It's where, who, how, and when. So it's like you have to almost flip everything and start all over again and start to look at it. But don't look at it as you're starting from scratch. You're just, again, but better. You're going to redo this, but you're going to do it better, and you're going to do it with more conscience. You're going to do it with a staff that's, creative. They bring a lot to the table. They have ideas, and you execute the ideas. Engaging your customers. I'll repeat it numerous times. Customers like to be involved. They like to know that what they think of your product, you care, and therefore, and there's other people that think the same way. Access to your product. I do strongly believe in the e-com, because I think here's a time to be incredibly creative with your digital. I think that it's going to be that way for a while, because people don't want to go into stores the way they used to. They want to, but they won't. So you have the capability now to take some of your monies from where you had it in social media platforms or advertising, and put it into creative ways of thinking on your website, on your own e-com. That can be a digital experience of trying on clothes, trying on shoes, having, I don't want to say an emoji of you, but something so that you can see how you look on it. And it's an experience. Experiences have to be real. They can't be so far-fetched that they tweak your creativeness, but they don't really give you the information that you need. And I think that's where big houses, big fashion houses, they do these shows that cost so much money, and they are a limited audience. So now it's time to go to the virtuals. And I think that in-house, you should still have shows, but I think you should use a creative platform for those who don't want to travel overseas or aren't ready to be in crowds, but make it an experience. And that will resonate with you. You'll remember the big houses, the Dior's and the Balenciagas and Kering and LVMH, because they have the money to put into these, and they're luxury brands, and they do it well. But they do it excessively, because I think when you have that kind of money and you're making that kind of money, it's very simple to do. But there is authenticity to what they do, because they understand how to convey it through advertising channels, marketing channels, social media channels, and their customers. They host personal dinners at times. They treat their high-end customers very well. It's time to bring that back to all. You'll see throughout the media, a lot of stores are closing. I just think it's not about just closing the store. It's a redefining what the store. Do you need 5 H&Ms within a 10-mile radius? Not really. You need maybe 1 or 2. I also have this other idea of authenticity, is that it's, this Gap in Kanye West collaboration. I don't know if you've read about it, but Gap's really suffering. And now what did they do? They went and they collaborated with Kanye West. And again, authenticity. Listen to the kids. The kids have a lot to say about so much in the world right now, because they have a different perspective than when I was growing up. They have all this available to them, and they have a really strong voice. I call them a revolution, because they have great understanding of so much more than we did, but they're doing something with it. And whether it be style or protests or voting or education, they have a stand, and I really respect them. I think they're the ones that we should listen to a little bit more, not poo-poo them and only utilize them in these substandard roles. But I'm not saying let's not get in the executive position quite yet. Okay, we did that for a while and it didn't quite work.
Yeah.
So I think that lends all to what is this hub of authenticity.
I think what's interesting is that you're talking about something that runs a lot deeper than just having a great story, for instance.
Exactly.
This is about, so I've one of the other contributors to the summit, a woman called Kate Wood, who I've had a really interesting conversation with about employee engagement in particular, and how that drives sort of sustainability and can move a business forward. And I think what you're talking about in terms of the experience your customers have of whatever it is you do, and how you talk to them and how you gain their feedback and bring that into how you shape your business and your products and services,
Right.
is equally important. That actually, right. And that's where the authenticity comes from. It's not about the backstory. It's not about whatever you created as a brand, it's about that experience and what your customers are telling you about what they want from you, why they buy into whatever it is you do. Does that sound like it? That's kind of what you say?
Well, I'll give you a good example to just sort of segue into what you're saying. I now I consult in PR, and I'm working for this amazing brand, Belgian Shoes. Amazing brand. They've been around for 65 years. They've not changed their model up too much. They're handmade Belgian loafers. It's an experience. You have to go in and be fitted for it, but it's a really luxury environment. I mean, they've just redone their store. They don't have any e-com. They have these handmade shoes that have been passed on from generation to generation to generation to generation. They have one store in the whole world. It works for them because when you know that this product is, you really like it, you can only get it at one place, you make a point of having that resource to you available, whether it be via a phone, because it's no emails, it's phone calls. And they really engage with their customer. They really care about what their customer thinks. And the shoes have not changed. And the shoes have survived 9/11, and it survived our blackouts out here. It's survived the 2008 housing crisis. And the shoes are not cheap, but they are a staple piece that not everybody gets, but the people who do get it appreciate it. What's happening now is that it's passing down to the generations. So the grandmother had it, now the grandchildren want it, et cetera, et cetera. And what they hone in on the product. The product is so well made; it'll last you forever. It's a ballet slipper shoe, but you'd have to look it up to kind of understand what I mean by that. But it's nothing more than that. They've not changed up the product. And that's something to be said for 65 years, and it resonates still to date. They care about the product. They care about their customers. They don't have all these frills and fancy pomp and circumstances, but they have substance to the brand, and a substance that people really relate to. And I think that's what we're missing, is that when you don't relate to it, you're scrolling through and you're clicking and you're buying. It's sort of like it's the norm. That's how we shop. But when you want your brand to make a difference to somebody and you do something to have it expressed that way, people engage that. They like that. We need to come back to people. We're still in a digital time where our phones and our computers are such a means of communication and source, and we miss interaction with people. And if we're going to have this new way of not being together and not socializing still, make people feel that their opinions are important. Make them feel that they have a vested idea that's interesting to you. I mean, I know that's what reviews are for, but sometimes when people do that, do they even read them? Do they even care? So not to get too off track, but I think that this idea of having smaller, less of, doesn't mean wiping everything out. It means just tightening it and really strategizing what you want and how you want, when you want, and being very careful and methodical about all that you're going to continue with.
So there's a really interesting book actually by a guy called Richard Koch, who you may be familiar with. It's a book called Simplify, and it talks about this principle of, and he's talking in particular about specific industries in specific markets and showing examples of how those industries have revolutionized their sectors by simplifying. But to take a kind of a slice of that really and apply it to what you're saying, that I guess in a sense is what you're saying, is that we need to kind of boil things down again to products and services at their simplest, at its core. What does your business stand for? What does your product or your service stand for? In its simplest form, strip away the bells and whistles, and if you do that, is there anything of substance left?
Exactly.
And if there is something of substance, that's what you build on, rather than relying on the bells and whistles to keep you standing.
Exactly. So if you've got a product and you've got all this pomp and circumstances and bells and whistles and social media, blah, 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 really, is it that bad? And then the consumer gets it, or the consumer orders it and doesn't resonate that way to them, then you've sort of been dishonest in this way, and it doesn't feel genuine anymore. I think we've been in such an excessive mode the last 15 years. Like we're bulging at the seams, with everything. A lot of people use this word sustainable, and sustainable is the way, that in fashion, the way things are made, and that they're not made in relation to it's good to the environment or even to the person. And I think that that's important, but it's very expensive to do that. Not everybody has the resources. What I think is sustainable is buy better, utilize it. Trends will slow down. Trends have to slow down because it's not like trends were coming every 6 months or every year and a half. They were coming every couple of months. And that's too much because, okay, well, that was this week and now what's next week? And oh my gosh, I got to buy that. And you get this reaction. So one of the words I was thinking, and I was thinking about this, is that we need to be switch reactive to proactive. So not to be so reacting to everything and wanting and consuming. It's, where do I need this? And again, we have to be mindful of the time. People don't care about fashion right now, but they do. They do in a minor sense because it's beauty. Fashion is amazing. The people that I've worked with and the people I've associated with, nothing but the best to say. I have nothing negative about it. I've had the most wonderful experiences. And I've worked a lot with celebrities, and I think they're amazing. And I think it's going to change for them with, houses and fashion brands. Celebrities were if you got it on a celebrity, it was giving you brand identity and recognition. But is that real? A lot of the times, celebrities would borrow, but I know a lot of these celebrities have relations with the brands. They like the clothing, they want to wear it, but it's different when you have a big brand and you have money to invest in it. People will put marketing into that with a celebrity, but I think that might change a little bit now where it will be real relationships. And at the same time, where are they going? We haven't opened theaters up, we haven't opened up, and that will come back. So I think that celebrity relationships are important. And all my relationships that I had with celebrities was prior to social media, prior to the internet. They were built with publicists and assistants and hairstylists and real, genuine, actual friendships, more or less. They're not my buds. We're not hanging out. They wouldn't even know me if they saw me in a room, but you have this relationship that you can say, oh, we just got this collection in. And I think that doesn't happen anymore. It's all done in a different manner. And I think that will change because, fashion will go on. It's just in a different light than we're seeing it now. And I think we'll really appreciate it. We won't feel, those of us who don't understand fashion, those who aren't into fashion, won't feel so rejected in a way, if that makes any sense. I think a lot of times people feel like, oh, fashion, it's all celebrities. It's not. It's an amazing business. Beautiful clothes, beautiful people. And I just think it's about realigning what you have and what you want to do with it and thinking better about it. That might be a loss in some respects. It's loss of jobs, loss of stores, loss of things like that. But in the end, it'll reflect better and you'll be more prosperous. You'll make more money and have more happiness, and people will work harder for you. But if we keep with this excessive and this greed, we didn't learn anything. There was no silver lining for us. We're just, and it's like a burnout, too much of anything and you burn out. And I think that's what's happened in fashion. It's a bit of a burnout.
I think it's happened in a lot of industries, actually. Absolutely not just a fashion thing. I think a lot of industries have suffered from that. So one of the things that I've been asking other speakers on the summit to do as we kind of wrap this up is, of all the things you've kind of talked about, and there's a lot of rich kind of depth in there as well, which is fascinating. But if you were to pull out one thing that you think businesses could be focusing on now, that's going to stand them in good stead, hopefully, as they move forward, what do you think that thing would be?
That's a layer cake. You got to know your product. You got to rethink your product. You have to, because, and when I use that one word product, collections in fashion, it's never one just product only. These brands have collections, but you have to think about your audience, your product, and what is this product? What is it? So be philanthropic. I think collaborations are a wonderful idea when you have a product, but I think it's how you convey the message. Now, if it's a product or products, it's all on how you're going to convey it. Are you going to just continue with the social media influences? Are these social media influences real? Are they real to the brand? Or are they marketed media influences? And listen, that was a world, but I think you can see now that sort of gives you a bad image, because you have to be very careful restarting this. You can't just jump into it. You have to rethink it and change the model. So I would say the one thing is know your product and know your audience. So it's kind of you can't just have one or the other, because if you have the product, then what does it mean to your audience? If you have the audience, what is the product? So it's kind of like not a one-word answer. It's a two-word: know your product and know your audience.
That's fine.
And, and it's interesting. It's nice to get to know your audience, where a lot of people don't even know who buys their product or who's interested in it. And they might see it on social media. They might see it in TikToks and things like that. But really, do you really know? Like my example of this guy from Gravity, he cared so much about his brand that he put it into his employees, who will go and do the work for this brand, and everyone's successful and everyone's happy. And isn't that kind of what we need right now? Everyone needs to be kinder, and we need a lot more happiness in life. And I think that it can only produce positive results. I mean, you have to work hard at all of this, but we need this change. We need this shift right now. So know your product, know your customer.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Lisa. Brilliant note to end on. I think I've really enjoyed having you. It's been great talking to you. So thank you very much indeed. And,
thank you. I appreciate it.
If people want to find out a bit more about where you are, what it is you do, and get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to go to do that? They
could either email me. Shall I give you my email?
Yeah. I'll share your email at the end.
Email or text or LinkedIn and I'm grateful if anybody would want to talk more, because I think people have a lot of ideas going at them, and where do you begin?
Yeah,
like, how do you start this out? So
fantastic. Brilliant. Again, thank you very much indeed, Lisa, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much indeed. Take care.
Stay tuned, everyone.